Well, the initial project was to write a book about the way in which the law controls how we reproduce, so about reproduction in general, from birth control, from sterilisation, right through to surrogacy and fertility treatment. As I did more research into how we control access to treatment, this particular issue bothered me more and more, the idea that the law enables fertility clinicians to make choices about who should and who shouldn't be a parent. And at first sight, that's really rather odd, given that there's no necessary connection between having blocked fallopian tubes, for example, and being a risky mother. So there's a clause in the original piece of legislation which governs fertility treatment provision in the UK, which is known as the welfare clause. And the clause in its original form said that before providing any treatment services, such as IVF, a clinician had to take into account the welfare of any child who may be born, including the need of that child for a father, according to the original Act, in order to decide whether or not to provide treatment to enable that child to be born. The way it was actually interpreted was by doing a pretty full welfare assessment on potential patients, writing to their GP to find out whether their GP had any information to share, and deciding whether or not it would be a good idea to provide these possible parents with the opportunity to become a parent. Lots of people had noticed that there was something rather odd about the need for a father part of this statutory provision, in the sense that it was, in a sense, telling clinicians to discriminate, that you should basically be careful about providing fertility treatment to a lesbian couple, say, or a single woman. So I was critical of that first in the book I wrote about the regulation of reproduction. But I had to do that in quite broad brushstrokes. But I was so interested in this particular issue that I followed up by writing a piece in the Modern Law Review, which was just about that section of the statute and, crucially, how it was interpreted. So there were two changes that happened subsequently. One, and I think the really critical one in some ways, was a change of policy by the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority in 2005, by which time I was a member of the HFEA. I became a member in 2003. And the 2005 policy change was a change not of the statute itself, but of its implementation. So instead of asking the question, would this couple be good parents or ideal parents, the authority turned it on its head and said, do we have any reason to believe that these parents would pose a risk to their children? So rather than being a welfare assessment, it became a welfare of the child risk assessment. The second big change was a statutory change. So that was the removal of the need for a child for a father part of it, and was replaced when the statute was reformed in 2008 by that the child just needs supportive parenting. It doesn't matter which gender the parents are, the child just needs supportive parenting. And when the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority was drafting the guidance to help clinics implement that change, it very specifically said in its code of practice that all parents are assumed to be supportive parents. So again, part of that trend of saying, in the absence of grounds for thinking these parents pose a risk of significant harm for the child, we assume that all parents are good enough parents.